In this episode, we are going to be talking about the result enum and how can we use it to enhance our code, making it more expressive and so on. Many of you have already seen code like that in your project. This code do a network request and then parse the response into objects like a user, for instance, and of course the callback have a second parameter which is an error that could occur during this process. And of course this was kind of the default approach back in Object-C time and made its way into Swift. Before we can show you guys a different approach, a better one, let's analyze it and find some of the problems and some of the possible cases that this callback will provide and how can we handle it. In the callback, we have to address several different paths. The first one, when the users is valid, so we have to handle the success of the operation. Of course, we have also the error flow when the error is something is not new, so we have to provide also a code to handle it. But we also have another path when the error is new and the user is new. At first it may sound absurd, this third path, but the callback that we introduced in the function allows it. So we have to have some sort of code handling it. The fourth path is even more absurd, but we have to account the fact that inside our if-lights about the users, when the user is not new, we also can have an error not new, so we have to account for that. So our initial harmless code introduced a lot of complexity to our code. And why does this happen? First, because this callback generates a matrix of possible results. We can have a user valid with no error, we can have a error with no user, but we can also have two absurd cases, like I've said before, when the user is present, the error is present, and the user is not present, and the error is not present also. How can we make this better? We can start introducing a new enum called result. This result enum will encapsulate our response in two possible cases, success and error. This makes much easier for us to handle the response and forget about having to worry about two possible parameters in the callback. We only will have this result encapsulating our response, and from the perspective of the one calling the code, it's much easier because a simple switch would be able to address the possible cases. Now our code is much more concise and can only worry about two possible cases, the success and the error, and in both of these cases we can recover the objects, the parsed users and the error if present, using the associated values of the enum. This is a great enhancement because we left a place where we had four possible cases, being two of them being absurd, and now we only need to worry with two valid cases. It's much easier to work with.